And I hope everybody's had a good week so far. How's it going everywhere?
Rainy.
I've had a bit of a crazy one, so I'm trying to make sure that I'll stay healthy for the rest of the week. This stage.
It's the coffee that's the killer now.
Oh yeah, coffee getting you.
Yeah, no, well, you cold, it's obviously change of season, nice cup of coffee,
Yeah.
and then you have one late at night, and then you're up all night, and then you decide to do work, and then you don't get sleep.
Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah. I know we're waiting for like 3 more people, but I feel like I'll start introducing you anyway, and then hopefully they'll join. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so welcome to the Sub90. Oh, Jason, I do need to make you co-host, I think. Then you can present.
Then I can present, yes.
It's not allowing me to do that. So I've never had this issue before. Okay, give me 2 seconds.
Let me just see if I can push the presentation. Then we shouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Seems to be. You'll see the slide.
Yes. Yeah, can see it.
Good.
God has joined. We're just waiting for Justina and Stacy. So hopefully they'll join soon, but yeah, we won't wait too long. Welcome to Saad, he's joined. So yeah, I'll just introduce. So welcome to a Sub90 Masterclass. So we're focusing on strength and conditioning in endurance sports and for endurance athletes. So obviously anything that requires you to work for more than 2 minutes at a time, you know, that's pretty much your endurance cap, and then anything up to like 10, 12, 16, 18 hours, I guess. Most people won't be doing activities for that long, but if you are planning to in the future, then you know these are some things that I think will steer you in the right direction. Jason is a great coach. He's rebranded recently, so good job on that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you for joining us. Jason is also a high rocks coach, and he specializes in building up the strength around joints, ligaments, making sure that they're secure and able to handle whatever loads you're going to be putting on them. So yeah, we really look forward to learning from you, and yeah, go for it.
Cool. Thanks, Jarryd. Okay, so quick introduction. Jarryd's done a wonderful job on that. So obviously I'm Coach Jason. been doing strength training most of my life. I actually got a strength training background, personal trainer, fitness coach, come from a powerlifting background. So I know the different aspects on how different workouts can actually build on your group, on certain muscle groups and so forth like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through a couple of things today and just touch on how it works on endurance athletes. Now, from an endurance athlete, don't think of it as just as triathletes. It's not. It's runners, cyclists, high rocks athletes. You could name it as anyone doing trail running, for example. Anything that's, like Jarryd said, more than 2 minutes of constant work, pushing your heart rate zone into zone 2 and above, is classified as an endurance sport. So based on that, your muscles need to work in the correct type of way to do that. So yeah, just kicking off. Presentation is going to be roughly about 30 minutes. And then there's going to be a quick Q&A at the end. So if you need any questions answered and so forth, feel free. There is no stupid questions, but yeah, feel free to answer. Let me just see how this thing works. There we go. All right. So strength and conditioning, it's actually built around your chassis. So if, for example, you think of endurance, your VO2 max, everyone should be able to understand what a VO2 max is. It's how your body actually uses your lung capacity to push your body forward. Based on that, strength and conditioning builds your chassis so that you can handle that. And that's what most people don't understand, is they think, I must just train, I must get that VO2 max up. And that's not the right way of thinking, because if you don't build up your chassis, you can't have the proper leg workout. You can't have your plyometrics build up. You can't have you step out of the way. If something, for example, a rock's in the road and you want to step out and you step wrong, you twist your ankle. That's all to do with strength conditioning. So think of it as building up your body, not working your endurance. And that's where the difference between endurance and strength training comes in. So it is two different aspects, and we're going to touch on both at the moment. So, all right. The intent of this masterclass is basically to educate you guys. It's not, I'm not going to give you a program. I'm not going to tell you what strength exercises to do. I'm not going to tell you how to do these things. That's a separate conversation because it's individualized. Strength training is not like you just jump in and run and go. It has to be built around what you do and how you do it. For example, a high rocks athlete will not do what a triathlete does, because triathletes work in 3 different disciplines. High rocks works in upper, lower body. That's the difference between the two. So yeah, so what it is, basically, it's a focus on principles of decision making. So in other words, you have to decide what exercises you're going to be doing and build to that for strength and conditioning. You can't just go in and do a gym workout. So we have had a couple of questions about, wasting time in the gym. You don't know what to do. That's exactly what strength is. It's just getting into the gym and building a muscle group. Strength and conditioning for endurance is actually specifically that. You're looking at your specific endurance sport. So if, for example, you're doing running, you're not going to focus on getting your shoulders big. You're going to focus on getting your glutes. You're going to focus on getting your hamstrings, focus on your ACLs, calves, those sort of things. Then obviously the emphasis is you want to transfer and support your body for the endurance. So part and parcel of that is, if you actually working a runner, for example, like again, and you work your quads, you decide as well, is your race going to be an uphill or a downhill race? How are you going to work that? That's the biggest thing that you need to decide before you actually even do strengths. Because if you're going to focus on quads all the time and push quads, that's for climbing. Hamstrings are for going down hills. So if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to brake on the heels properly, and you're going to start tearing your ACLs. You're going to start working your calves. Your calves are going to start taking strain, and then eventually it's going to follow up all the way through your glutes, and you're going to start getting cramps in the backside and those sort of things that go through from there. So yeah, definitely the different types of works. And obviously, like I said, the Masterclass, it's not a generic one fits all. I'm going to give a broad explanation of what's going on. After that, you have to decide how you want to use this in going forward. All right. And that's exactly it. We want to educate, and I want to inform everyone about how strength training works with endurance athletes. Like I said, once again, it's not specifically triathletes. Don't focus on, I'm a triathlete, I need to do strength and so forth. Focus on your individual sport that you're going to be doing. Are you weaker in swimming? Do you need to get your shoulders stronger? Your running's okay. So you don't need to focus on strength and conditioning for running. You need to focus on strength conditioning, first of all, for swimming. And then you can build out your different sports from there. Okay. Oh, just got a huge storm here. All right. So the foundations is the most important that's going on, that you need to work on. If you don't have a good foundation, it's like anything with running, cycling, swimming, high rocks, trail running. If you don't have your base, you cannot go forward with that. And strength and conditioning goes hand in hand with base training. So if you're going to just start off with a triathlon and you're doing your 12-week or 6-week base workouts, strength and conditioning is vital for that, because that's going to help you build into your next phase that goes through. Okay, so why endurance is just more than an engine. So coming from a performance point of view, if you've got a strong VO2 max, you can run, you can cycle, you can carry on, you can breathe well. But how does your body react to those? Are you building up? Now, you can cycle as much as you want to, and you can build all those hills and go through. There will be a point where you're going to plateau and not go any further. That's where strength comes in. That will push you through to the plateau to be able to get you through to the next session. Okay, so that's where it comes up, beyond aerobic capacity. Exactly that. So you've got your aerobic capacity, you're strong, your heart rate beat is 47 beats per minute, and you're nice and fit. But you don't have the strength, you don't have the calves, you don't have your tendons nice and stretched and able to actually build up for that distance that you want to do it. Whether it be a full Ironman or just a sprint, you still need to work strength on that. Okay, strength is a support system that goes with it. So if you don't have, you're just doing a endurance sport, running, for example, or cycling, you're just going to be doing cycling, you're working a specific muscle group. Strength builds onto that. So if you've got lower back injuries, if you do strength and conditioning for lower back, that's your bad area, then you will be able to actually get rid of that back pain and go further. Sorry, Jarryd, there's just someone waiting there in the room. Just let them in. There we go. Right, functional strength. So the difference between strength training and functional strength is where it becomes down to your aerobic and your endurance side. Functional is your plyometrics, your movements, your joints, where you're going to be doing your tendons, especially like runners, cyclists. They've got bad ACLs and MCLs that tear, that give problems. Those are your tendons. Those need to work as well. So it's not just your big muscle group, it's your small muscle groups as well. And that's where functional strength comes in as well. So if, for example, you're strong and you've got a good frame, if you work on your functional strength, your plyometrics, your building, your stretching, then you can go further. That's a different aspect of endurance training for that. Okay? And then obviously there needs to be a synergy between the two. So you can't just do strength to build up and think you're going to get stronger and build and climb a hill much better. It has to work together. You still have to do the aerobic. You still have to do the endurance. It works as a synergy. Okay. So this is where now we become your transfer mechanics. Okay. So in strength training, you've got several transfer mechanics that come into play that can also either decrease or increase your aerobic capacity as it goes through there. With strength training, you've got an option. When you do the correct strength training, you can improve your energy efficiency. So your muscles then don't burn as much energy going up a hill when you're doing cycling, because you've got the proper push-pull. You're using your hamstrings, quads, glutes, everything that goes with it. Okay. Your force. Remember, for every muscle action, there's a reaction. So when you actually work the muscle, for example, you climb in a hill, you're using your quads. You're actually using your quads, glutes, back. And part and parcel of that is you're using your hamstrings to keep your body up straight, as well as your core, your quads. I mean, your abs that go with it as well. So if you don't work with a synergy with all of those muscle groups, you don't have that. Now, if you keep on working your quads, you're going to have a overwork of the quads. You've got nothing in reserve. And that's the point of having a correct way of working with muscle groups. You need to be able to balance life. Same as with cycling. If you don't push and pull, you're not going to be able to get right to the top of the hill without feeling too exerted. Okay. Then obviously your power and speed reserves. That's where it comes down to, like for example, you're doing a triathlon and you're coming right to the end of the run and you've got 5Ks left to do. This is where power and speed come into play. That you need to be able to push through. If you've managed your muscle groups correctly and trained your quads and your glutes, you're not going to have that back pain. You're not going to have that fatigue going through the muscle. Your lactic acid is not going to build up as much as you normally would, and you can finish your race strong. So that's the whole point of having those reserves. And then obviously a balanced training approach that needs to go through with it. Once again, everything in unity. You can't just do a strength and then do a 5K time trial. That's counterintuitive. So rather do your 5K time trial and then focus on strength on days that you're not going to be using as a high energy day. Okay, and that's where we're going to come to a concurrent training and fatigue management. So concurrent training means obviously just training one or the other. That happens in any sport. If you're going to run every single day, sorry, yes, Joe? Joe, your hands up?
All right, so, sorry to disturb. I just wanted to ask a question if you, or yeah, just check for clarity on this. So like how you look at your training week, and I'm sure you'll touch on this, but basically like so we want to try and develop our muscles to handle loads from the strength training that we're not necessarily doing in the endurance training, so that when we do a race or something and we need that like extra ability, then, or capability should we say, then we can like activate it and utilize it. Is that right?
Correct, yes. So that's your basically your reserve, your energy reserves that you're going to have there. So remember, when you're working and you're racing, so this comes predominantly because that's what we're going to be doing at the end of the day. We're training to race. So when you actually are racing and you come to that last bit of a hill that you're climbing, for example, you're going to Mossel Bay and you're climbing that hill, and you need to push yourself right to the top. You need to be able to have that muscle group in reserve to push you over so that you can turn around and come down and finish that last bit of the race and then still be able to do the run. Now, if you don't do the push and pull correctly on your bike, you're not going to get to the top. That is normal triathlon training. However, how do you do that push and pull? Yes, you've got the energy levels. You've trained. You've got your VO2 max. You're fit. You're strong. And you've trained to be able to get to the top. But suddenly your hamstrings are not strong enough. So what happens is you're pushing the whole way through. Your quads will then get fatigued. Based on your quads getting fatigued, your knees start buckling. Because your knees start buckling, your calves start giving you issues. Because your calves start giving you issues, you start cramping up. You start lowering your back and you start pushing in there. Because you do that, you get muscle fatigue on top of your shoulders. Now, when you jump into the run, you all tightened up. You can't relax on the run. You can't get there. Now you're not enjoying your race. If you've got your hamstrings and you focus on the push and pull, you don't have that. You're not burning those quads out. So that means that when you get to the top, you relax, you tighten, you find you can go. So that's the whole point of working out that synergy and having that muscle fatigue in reserve, so that you can push. Yes, my quads are tired, but I can push that extra. My small muscle groups are now trained to be able to work with this fatigue and to be able to go through there. So it has to be a synergy between the two.
Makes sense. Yeah, and your quads aren't going to be scared of that hill just because you haven't seen it before.
Exactly. That's it. All right. So obviously that's where the training fatigue management, where it works in. So coming back to obviously the concurrent, if you're going to run every single day, okay, you are going to feel tired. By Saturday, you just want to go and binge in front of a TV and not run. So you need to manage your training proper. So you're not going to be doing a strong leg day on a cycle day that's going to give you a high FTP, for example. If you're going to have a zone 2 cycle day, yes, you can do a strength workout with leg workout, but then you're going to focus on the muscle group that you're not going to do. So if you're going to do a nice spin session, then you can focus on your calves, you can focus on your glutes, but don't focus on your hamstrings or quads because you're going to be working them anyway. Okay, so that's a balance that you've got to be doing. So you've got to balance strength and endurance training between the two. So it works hand in hand with your triathlon or running or Hyrox coaching or anything that goes with it. So part and parcel of that now comes down to what stress. So there's 2 different types of stress that work on your body. That's there is your training stress and your lifestyle stress. Now, if you are going to be doing strength training, triathlon training, cycling training, then running, and then back to strength, and you're not going to be eating right, you're not going to be resting and recuperating properly, at the end of the day, you're going to have stress built on your body. So the stress that comes in with training is you've got your training day and you've got your strength day, and you've got a mix between the two. You have to balance all of those. Okay. Your main thing is, depends on your phase where you are in training, you need to protect your endurance sessions. So remember, strength training is an add-on. It's a benefit to your endurance session. So you need to be able to just balance the two of them and work it out. So if, for example, you've got a big training block, you do your big training block, whether it's a cycle, run, or triathlon. The strength would be an add-on that you go from there. So if you've got a big training block and there's things, rather just do a stretch workout at the gym. So don't go doing a gym workout where you're going to push weights. Do a nice stretch, do a yoga session, do anything. That is strength training. It might not be with weights, but it's still with strength training. Okay. Then obviously you have to have a strategic strength training session. So you can't just come in and do strength, like we were saying. You have to balance the two. Okay. And then the same as the workload and recovery. So when you get part and parcel of a strength workout built into an endurance, make sure that you know what you're going to be working. If you're going to be in a recovery week, then you can actually put a little bit more strength and build into that, because strength doesn't overload your muscles too much. You've got a couple of delayed onset of muscle soreness, DOMS, but that's not going to affect you on a rest week. But if you're going to be doing a high workout, so you're in week 4 of your build and you really working hard and you've got high FTPs and high cadence, rather do a stretch workout or a yoga session or something like that to complement it. Your endurance comes first on that. Okay, once again, that's part and parcel of where we are with tri-darts and everything else. We have to look at your risk reduction. That's the most important. You want to be able to keep training. So you have to manage your sport correctly and look at it. So you have to balance between load and capacity. Now, what I mean between load and capacity is load is your actual muscle groups, how you're going to actually work them. So for example, if you're a strong guy like myself, I can push a leg press of 300 kilograms, 400 kilograms comfortably without having too much of a load on my body. However, if you're going to have someone that's 60 kilograms and now wants to push 200, 300 kilograms on a leg press, then you're overloading your body. So that's your capacity. You're not able to actually do that. You need to build up to that. Don't go and push too heavy, too much, and then obviously build it up for your specific sport. So if you are going to work out in the gym, have a plan at the end of the day. So the role of strength and conditioning is to work your muscle groups. It's to work the tendons. It's to help with stiffness. That's why I say you can use yoga. You can do meditation is also a form of strength where you actually just relax your muscle groups. Make sure you get everything going through. Joint control. So on your joint control is a simple movement of just flexing your joints. That helps release all the tension, all the water buildup, everything inside your joints so you can train better. Remember, when you're doing a cycle or a run, you are putting that same motion constantly as it goes through. So you need to be able to do a joint. So if you're going to be doing your stretches, A lot of guys get up, they put your leg onto the other leg, and you then do a cross stretch. That opens up your joints. Same with with your calves and your ankles and so forth. You do your ankle twists. That opens up. That helps with your joints. Doing your elbow turns, that helps with your joints. That all helps part and parcel of that thing. So you don't have to go through and do a full gym workout. As long as you know where you are in your training load and where you are in what you want to achieve out of it at the end of the day, you need to be then do work on your things. And obviously tendons and everything else. And repetitive stress is a big thing, especially for cycling and running. You need to be able to do that. So stretching the quads, stretching the glutes, that's very, very important. That goes through it. And then there is exercises that you can do. For example, a lying hamstring versus a seated hamstring curl. If you do a seated hamstring curl, you're still going into that repetitive stress because it's the same movement. You're in that same seating position. If you do it as a lying, you actually open up your back. So there's different ways you can actually use those exercises to work it correctly. Okay, and then obviously just monitoring how you are going. So if you don't monitor your body, if you don't know how your body feels, then you need to be able to just document it and see where you are in the thing. Yes, Sad. Sorry, bud. Your hands up.
Yeah. Hi. With respect to strength training and conditioning, obviously you cannot train like a bodybuilder, but especially someone who's doing, someone is like a triathlete. How much is enough, or how much is too little? What is the guidelines? Is it twice a week is enough? I know everyone is individual, but there needs to be some sort of framework, which is I don't get. Is once a week maybe too little, or maybe 3 times a week? What would you say the average guideline for someone training for 70.3, for the sake of example?
Okay, so for the 70.3, obviously your training load is fairly high. So if you're a newbie, so let's say listen, your first 70.3 that you're busy doing, and you want to be able to build strength into it, your strength training load shouldn't be too much because you're actually building it. Now, if you go, obviously previous slides, you have to then work according to where you want to be. If you've got bad cycling, for example, and you're doing a 70.3 Durban, which is a flattish route, so rolling hills, means that you're not going to be really climbing and using your quads very hard. So you would then actually focus more on building your tendons, on your plyometrics to be able to work through that. Then you would also have a strength training base where, so obviously Durban's a bad example at the moment because it's too close, but let's say Mossel Bay at the end of the year. At the moment, that training phase is in base training. So you would actually be focusing maybe 3 to 4 times a week on strength training and building into your training as you go. Obviously, it also depends on your fatigue and how well you actually handle your training. And also a bit depends on your actual program itself. So if you're on a high level build, so week 3 or week 4, you're not going to have a 4-day training. You're going to have a 2-day training with maybe 2 days stretching. So you have to balance your life on that. You can't just come in and say, I'm going to train strength, doing upper body on Monday, lower body Tuesday, and so forth. It's never going to work like that. For gym, it's fine, but for endurance sport, it's not. It's a completely different way of thinking. You need to be able to look at your program and see how you're going to be doing it. So building up to Mossel Bay now, you've got 12 weeks of base that you're going to be doing. In those 12 weeks, you can definitely do week 1, 2, and 3 as 4 times a week. Week 4, maybe twice a week with stretching. Then you repeat and you go from there. So as your program works and as you're going through there has to be a balance of things. And then also listen to your body, monitor your body. So if you're going to be tired and you find that your strength workout is not benefiting you, you're going to be coming in, you're going to start, for example, doing squats. That's coming through, and you're really battling to do the squats correctly, not just going down and up. You have to be able to get to that 90 degree, past 90 degree if you need to work your glutes. So building on that is where you decide whether you're going to do that exercise or not. If you're feeling very fatigued, rather do a stretch workout or a yoga session just to let your body recuperate, focus on your diet, focus on everything else, get your proteins in, and then start again with that. So strength training is an add-on. The endurance comes first, building up to your race, but all depends on where you go through.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
that's correct.
much. And just one more question, if you don't mind. Would you
Yes, sir.
combine a strength and conditioning with a probably like a zone 2 on the same day, or is that a big no-no? Or is there any
Correct,
sort
no.
of, or you should keep that separate, not mix them together?
All right.
If
So
it's just
I've
like
got a
a light
question.
recovery run with a strength
Okay.
and conditioning.
Okay, so that's exactly what I was going to ask. So let's focus on the run. Nice run, zone 2, nice easy pace, good breathing, and so forth. I would definitely include a strength and conditioning session for that. Focusing maybe on your calves, lower back, and probably shoulders. So you wouldn't focus just on legs. You would focus on a different muscle group. Now, based on that run, you're already doing a nice warm-up because you're doing a zone 2. So you need to build your shoulders, build onto that as a add-on. So your shoulders are already nice and warm, your joints are lubricated, you're feeling strong. Let's build those tendons. Let's build those muscle groups. So then you can build your shoulders, do a good shoulder press, do everything else. Your muscles will feel a little bit more fatigued, but they will recover quickly because you've done the warm-up part and parcel of that. You wouldn't then do, for example, if you're going to do a swim, you're not going to be doing a shoulder workout on a swim. You'll be then focusing on lower body workout. So focus on, because on your swim, you're going to be doing kicks. So then you would focus on your calves. You'll focus on hamstrings and not so much on glutes, because when you're doing kicking, you're obviously using your glutes. So you would be focusing on stretching of your glutes, not working the muscle groups of the glutes, if that helps.
Thank you. Very clear. Thank you.
Cool. All right. And then obviously, if you do feel any pain or anything like that, that comes with training, like any other workout, monitor yourself. If you're feeling pain when you're doing exercises like that, look at getting a consult with either a personal trainer or a doctor or someone like that. Personal trainer, or a fitness trainer. They will be able to guide you in the right way. If it is severe pain or uncontrollable pain, doctors definitely go and see, and you might be able to see a physio and get that sorted out as soon as possible. Remember, strength training, if you've done it right, it complements endurance, so you shouldn't be getting injured. But we live, there's life, we move around. So sometimes your body does react differently to the way it is. You might decide that you want to have a nice strong session and feel like Superman, and push a 100-kilogram bench, and then suddenly you tear your shoulder. There's limits to where you need to take your body and understand where you want to take it. You're an endurance athlete, not a bodybuilder. So you're looking at using endurance to build onto strength, to build onto that endurance. Okay, then everything is built for you. So if someone comes to you and says, here's a generic program for triathlons, don't follow it. You are going to get injured. You are going to have an issue. It's not built according to you. You know how your body feels. You can use it as a guideline, but I wouldn't follow it strategically, because for each person, they're training differently. They're working out differently. So you've got different races. I might be building up for a high rocks race and you building up for a triathlon. And there's different ways of working. It's different ways of working the muscle groups. So I would be working a lot more muscle groups and more of the plyometric stuff than you would be doing more building of your quads, your hamstrings, working on those tendons, those sort of things. So in the sport and your event demand is where it comes down to. So if you're going to be doing an event and you want to really push top 10, you will have to then really, really work on building that endurance and building those muscle groups together strongly. If you want to just finish and you're doing your endurance, adding strength will make you finish comfortably, make you enjoy the race, make you then go out for a couple of beers with your friends afterwards, or go down walking down the beach with your wife, those type of things. So just for example, my first full Ironman that I did, I worked with this, obviously properly with strength and endurance. I spent a lot of time on building my muscle groups because I'm a bigger guy and so forth. I finished my Ironman. We then had a nice week break, like you would do if you want to do a bit of a holiday with that. We went to Plettenberg Bay, and I then did a full 21-kilometer hike 2 days later. So around the mountains, up and down things. feeling comfortable, feeling happy. I spend time with my family, and that's what I wanted to achieve out of my race at the end of the day. Other people will feel differently. It all comes down to your event and the demand that you want to put on that event at the end of the day. Okay. The second part of obviously is your athlete profile. If you are injury prone, you need to focus on what you are injury prone about, what you can move around, how your movement is. If you're a big guy like me, you're not going to be doing box jumps constantly, because that's going to put issues on your joints. You're going to still do box jump, but you're not going to be making it as a full everyday workout that you're going to be doing. You're going to focus on different ends. If you're a quick guy and you want to work on speed, then yes, you will work on your speed workout. You will work on your track workout. You'll incorporate lunges, squats, those sort of things to build in. Different events, different people. You're also going to have a look at your injury prone. You're not going to be, if you've got bad knees or a bad back or a bad hip, for example. I've got some athletes that are fairly old and they've got hip issues. We're not going to be doing full hip movements on that. You're going to be focusing on your tendons, but not the muscle groups that are affecting those hips. So you're not going to do the over rotation of the hips. Okay, and as I've said as well, it's your training phase that goes with it. Go for it, Joe.
Okay, just on the like working on hip mobility and things like that. It would also be, if I'm not mistaken, you'd also like work within a progression. So, you know, like if you wanted, this is a wild example, but if you wanted to do the splits, you know, you're not gonna go try and do the splits next week. You know, that will be maybe a 2-year progression that you'll learn to open up your hips and, you know, and work your way through that. And then obviously it's age dependent on that, but you know, it's not necessary for endurance, but I think, yeah, get me if I'm wrong, but we don't want to like say, okay, well, on this type, you know, I can't do that because of this X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, I've started working on it, and from where I started to where I'm at now I can handle these better loads because I'm better at doing a, you know, a deadlift, or I have better technique and things like that.
No, you're quite right. So a better example would be, for example, touching your toes. So you've just started out, you overweight, you can't get down. You go down, you'll be able to touch your knees. You know, 2 weeks later, you're going down beyond your knees. 3 weeks later, you're hitting your ankles, and so forth. So it is a progression. You have to do that. And part and parcel of the stretching and everything else that goes with it, that is actually vitally important part of your athlete profile. Are you able to stretch? If you're not able to stretch, those are the most important things that you need to add onto your program so that you can do it before you actually start building your muscles. It's no use you trying to get monster quads if you can't stretch and you can't get that plyometric, because what's going to happen is if you can't go down and touch your toes, your lower back, your L1, L2s are all going to start collapsing with each other, and you're going to start having issues. So you start stretching that out, you'll be able to get your lumbers right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, training phase, just the training phase where you're sitting in your training as well. Like I said, if you have got an FTP test week, don't go and do a full-on strength training session. Do a nice light stretching, yoga session, jump in the sauna, just relax your muscles, get plenty of sleep. Those are the things that you need to do. All right. And then obviously your life constraints, stress and everything else that goes with it. From a strength point of view versus endurance point of view, yes, you've got your programming you're building up. If you're unable to actually work out and do a strength workout or even an endurance workout, just go and do a couple of push-ups at home, or a stretch workout, or, you know, something that you can do, maybe a burpee or two if you fit, or even a plank. If you're going to do a couple of things, work on your abs just to get that movement going. So instead of just saying, no, I'm not going to train, I don't feel like it, or I'm feeling sick, your body's not that sick that you can't actually just get on the floor and do a stretch. It'll benefit your body a lot more. So focus on that. It'll help with the stress. And then most important, obviously, is your sleep. Okay. So that's time. That's how you work there. So time, obviously, can you train? Remember that you don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to go to a Planet Fitness, Virgin Active, or anything like that. You can do most of the workouts that you want to be able to get going at home. A home-based workout is just as effective as a gym workout. Once again, depends where you want to be. If you want to be able to climb a monster hill, you are going to need to have a couple of racks and everything else that you need to do to build on the race, a couple of dumbbells to be able to put those extra stretch or stresses building onto your body with extra weights. But most of it can be done at home workouts. All right, season planning and longevity. This comes down to how you're going to do it. If you're going to come out in your base week, basically 12 weeks that you're going to be working, and you work hard and you're building and you do a pull-on stress strength workout with high stress and everything else, by the time you get to your build session to be able to build up to your race or your race set, race week, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to be completely buggered, if you want to call it. So you have to plan where you are in your race. If you're base training, yes, you can push the strength. If you've got 2 weeks to go before your race, don't do strength, do stretching, focus on those sort of things. You're not going to get any benefit to actually do strength on that. But once again, it's balancing life and where you want to be. So, work across the year. So do your planning as it is. So dialing you for base training, as I said, then adjust it for the building. So as you go through your build phase, you don't have to have strength training 4 to 7 times a week. You can then drop it down to 2 or 3 times a week, and then eventually down to like 1 time a week. And the rest of the time, you're going to be doing stretching. You're going to be doing everything else that goes through it. So, for example, you're doing your running. Your warm-up is normally your A skips, B skips that you go with it, your butt kicks. That is stretching. Over and above that, you can add a couple of static stretches right at the end of your workout. That is contributing towards your strength side of it. So a lot of people do their workout, they do the warm-up, they forget to do the static stretches at the end. That's vitally important to do with strength that you go through there. So as you're building up, look at your different strength training and where you need to do your stuff. In the beginning, you can push your weights, and then afterwards, you start tapering down your weights. You don't have to push as much. And obviously, during the peak phase, which is like 1 to 2 weeks before your race, just do your micro stuff. Focus on more the stretching, the plyometric stuff as you build through there. And then coming down to the long-term management, build it up to your races. So if you've got a race that you're building up towards the end of the year, yes, you can do strength, you can work it, you can build, you can get nice and strong. You can then incorporate that into your endurance, and you can build it on from there. Plan long-term. Don't plan short-term for that. If you plan short-term, you're not going to get any benefit at the end of the day. So strength and conditioning for endurance is a long-term thing, same as what you would do for a race. You're not going to come in and say, I'm going to race in 2 weeks' time, and you haven't done any training. You're going to at least do 2-3 months that you're going to go down the line for that. All right. So the key takeaways that we're going to be doing from here, okay? Strength enhances performance. It builds up those muscles. It goes from there. It doesn't just add to the endurance, it enhances it. Conditioning reduces injury. So that's the most thing. So if you're going to be doing endurance only, the chances of you getting injured is not too much. Depends on your training load and so forth. But if you're going to have a tight training load, you are going to get injured quite soon. If you incorporate strength into it and you've still got that high training load and you're doing your stretches and you're doing out, you're going to reduce your injury by at least 50-60%. Okay, then obviously consistency. Like any other thing, you're going to be doing running, cycling, swimming. If you're not consistent at it, it's not going to benefit you at the long run. Okay, then do your framework for your fixed plans. Make sure that you are actually planning for your races and as it goes. Don't just do, I'm just going to do strength, do it to a goal, do it to a schedule, and so forth. Okay, so when it comes down to strength training, like I was saying, there's different ways of actually doing strength. You've got your bodybuilder types and you've got your gym types that just come through there. They just go and do their workouts after work or before work. You're going to be doing it to enhance. So there is a scientific insights and strength training programs behind these things. You have to make sure you know which muscle groups you want to train. So when you go to a gym, there was a question earlier on about, wasting time in the gym, not training the right muscle groups and everything like that. You have to plan where you're coming down to and understand that you have to work the correct muscle groups for the correct workout. So if, for example, you're going to be doing swimming, you're not going to work your shoulders. You're going to work your abs, you're going to work your quads, those sort of things. Same with running and cycling. If you're going to be having your heavy days on that, you're not going to be doing a lower body workout. You're going to focus on your upper body. And that's going to be your predominantly focus. The lower body, you're going to be doing stretching, plyometrics, those sort of things that goes with it. So there's a lot of research and everything that you need to plan before you just come in and go to the gym. You can't just go and jump into the gym. Okay. Then variability, keep it, different. So the worst thing that you can do for yourself at the end of the day is people get bored. So don't go in and do the same exercise week in and week out. There has to be a change. So yes, you can work the same muscle group, but not the same technique that you're going to be doing. For example, you're doing bicycles. Okay. There's different ways of doing a bicycle. You can do your normal bicycle. If you turn your wrist the other way around, it works a bit of a different one. If you turn the wrist away like that, you can do those 3 exercises in one instead of just doing your normal bicycles. Otherwise, you can use a bicycle machine. Then you can vary between a dumbbell or a barbell. So those are the different ones that you're going to do. They work fairly similar muscle groups, but it depends on what your outcome is going to be at the end of the day. So if you're going to be doing dumbbells for the first 2 weeks, switch to barbells. It works slightly different muscle groups, and it works your tendons a lot more because it pushes more of a resistant load onto there. So it works your different levers that go from there. So just keep it variety. And then obviously just apply what you're going to be doing to your workout. So don't just go and do a workout because you're going to be doing strength, because you're going to be doing swimming the day, so you're going to be doing a leg workout. Do it for a reason. What is your weak points? Consider that. Consider what did you train the day before? Did you do a big leg workout? So you're not going to be doing full-on quads and lunges. You're going to be doing something that's going to be a little bit lighter, but you're still going to be doing the workout as you need to. So apply what you need to do for that, and then focus on what you need to do. Do you need to balance? Do you need to work on flexibility and those sort of things that goes with it, hand in hand with your training? And then do research. I mean, I'm here as well if you need help. I'm happy to assist and give help. And help with simple questions. I mean, obviously, if you want a specific training program, that is a different story, but I'm happy to help with any niggles, with any advice on how to work certain muscle groups, with shoulder injuries, what to work with different muscle groups for those, and we go from there. So keep learning. All right, guys, sweet and short, but yeah, any questions?
Thank you, Jason. That's great. It's really a good roundup of everything. I'm sure there's a couple of questions. Otherwise, I'm going to put people on the spot.
All right.
Who's injury prone? Anyone? Who feels like they just get injured one session after the next?
Actually, Jarryd, I think you're aware. I used to have the knee pain, but I realized that I had to do a little bit. I was not doing enough stretching. It was just like just like Coach said, there's not enough people do enough static stretching. So I used to do it for 30 seconds. I'm like, okay, I think I'm done with the stretching. But I've learned to actually extend that stretching session for over 2 minutes and take my time, man, because this actually reduced the amount of injury, and including the roller form that really helped get into places that I could not get to. So I try to do it now consistently.
All right. No, good. Just so on your knee thing. So just for example, come down to variety. When you were doing stretching, you obviously doing your knee stretches and so forth. There's different ways of working it. If you do your side stretches, so in other words, you do a lunge to the side, that does your knee stretching and it works your tendons and your ligaments on your knees. Once you've gotten your tendons and ligaments stronger, then you can work on proper building up, doing a leg press or a squat. So those are the things that you need to look at with your injury. Is don't just do a squat because that's an up-down movement. You're going to have to look at the side to side to build up those ligaments around those knees to be able to go stronger.
Okay, that now makes sense because like you said, the side movements were always neglected. I was always just going up and down. That's it. And maybe a little bit of, very basic, knee extensions and this, but not as much. So I think maybe I can incorporate the side-to-side movements. At least I'm getting an overall 360 rather than just vertically go up and down. Okay, that's a very good thing to consider.
That's good. Okay. Liana, you had a question in the beginning about let me just get there with you saying here. Better strength training, stop playing and wasting time in the gym. Okay, give me a better idea. What were you doing in the gym that was wasting your time?
No, I wasn't structured. As I listened to you, I just realized I would just, I would go to the gym and I'm training for comrades, so I need to do legs. And so I already improved quite a bit, and what you are saying now is going to get me through the last few weeks. And then, like you mentioned, we are getting bored in the gym. I just want to tell you how stupid I was about a month ago. I was limited for time. I rushed into the Virgin Active and I saw they were getting ready for a class and I said, oh bum, I don't have place to train. Let me quickly see what's available. Let me quickly use it. And then social media reminded me I must do those plyometric jumps things. So without any warm-up, I started doing jumps. I lost 2 weeks of proper training because within this third jump, my back was so sore, I thought I needed MRI to figure out what did I break. So, we do so silly things and we know better. But when you are just thinking for the minute, you don't think 2 minutes ahead, you just think for the second, then you do silly things like that.
Okay, no, cool. All right, so based on what you said now as well, I picked up a couple of things that you need to work on itself. So your hamstrings are weak, that you need to work on, and your core. So you're not doing enough core work and you're not doing enough hamstring work. And that's going to hamper you, especially on the up run now for comrades, where you need to be able to do. Remember, up run, you're using your quads, you're pushing the whole time. But those down runs, as soon as you're going to hit the down runs, your back's going to start spasming and you're going to end up walking. So focus on core work. There's an exercise called dead bug. You can just Google it.
I know it.
Yeah, do a dead bug and do your planks. So your upper planks, lower planks, your leg ups, those sort of things. And then hamstrings, do all your hamstring exercises, seated hamstrings, lion hamstring curls. You can do Roman squats as well as your RDLs.
Okay, at least I end each gym session with 3 1-minute planks. So I'm doing a little bit of core, but I can improve. Thank you, Jason.
Include a lot more core. Core is vital on that. So especially with running. So it tells me that something in your posture is not 100% right, because if you're doing plyometric jumps, you are using your hamstrings, your glutes, and it comes down to your core. I'm not too sure if you understand what a core is. I'm just going to sidetrack and just do a bit of an education if everyone's interested. So if anyone can tell me, what is the core muscle?
Well, I used to think it's only my stomach, but I think it's more my whole upper body, and maybe it can even include my some of my back muscles, because it must keep my body upright.
You're half right. Okay, so obviously it has to do with your stomach, and it has to do with keeping you upright. So you've got different muscle groups in your stomach. So you've got your abs, which everyone wants to see and have a nice six-pack. And underneath your abs, you've got your stability abs, which is your dorsal and dominus muscles, which connect to your core. And right at the back, there's think of it as a sheet of paper that runs from your one side of your spine. So if this is your body here, your spine's in the middle here, it runs all the way around and comes that side. So it's a sheet of paper. It's not actually, it's not a six-pack muscle or anything like that. It's pure muscle tissue that runs all the way, connecting your spine through to the front. So it solidifies your whole body together. That's what you need to work. So not sit-ups or anything like that. You need to be able to do your core. So when you're thinking about actually doing an exercise, so for example, doing a plank, a lot of people just do a plank and they just sit there and, keep their body straight. The whole point of using a plank is if you're pulling from your belly button, you got to think of someone pulling a string that's attached from your belly button through the back of your spine. You got to keep that whole structure solid as it goes through. And that's when you're going to do a plank correctly. That's when it works your core. And that's why I said a dead bug as well, because a dead bug, you actually lying on your back, with your legs up. You're forced to keep your body in that structure, otherwise you're going to fall over. So that's your core muscle. It's a piece of muscle that's not going to have any definition, that doesn't do, you can't even see it, you can't even feel it, but it runs entirely around your body, right connecting your spine. And then on top of that, you've got your trans muscles, and then you've got your abdominis muscles.
Yeah, there's a cool exercise or activity I do with my kids at swimming, to teach them to engage their core, because obviously with swimming you have to do a lot of streamlining, and so I make them stand in a streamline, and then I try and push them over. Obviously I push them softly, but if you can get someone to do that for you, so you just hold this position, you stand up nice and straight, and then you have someone push your hands sort of left and right, forwards and back, and try resist the movement, then you'll feel that activation of the core, as you resist that movement, and then you try and transfer that into you using it when you're doing exercise, whether you're cycling, running, swimming, doing planks, doing squats. I think that's been the best way that I've been able to teach kids how to activate their core, because I mean, you want to do suck in your belly button and things like that, but so conceptually it's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah. So best advice I can do to you is, if you do get yourself a ball, those are plastic balls that you can sit on, do those and actually sit on those balls. Instead of getting a chair, sit on that ball, focus on keeping your core proper.
Yeah, that's good as well.
Cool. I think that's about it. If no one else has got any questions.
Yeah. Chantal, Dami, are you guys okay? Any questions on your side?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just listening while running. Sorry.
Okay.
For your run.
But that's an upper zone too, eh?
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Jason. Really appreciate your time and your effort here. I think everyone came away with something really valuable, and I'll save this and share it with you all so you can reflect.
No problem. I appreciate the time to chat to everyone. Thanks, Jarryd.
Cool. Have a lovely evening. See you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, that was really helpful.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Jarryd.